You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Hello, it's great. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on board and chatting with us at Surgeons of Horror. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very grateful.
So we talked about Sleepaway Camp, which kind of elevated you into the horror genre from a very young age. But looking at it now, do you consider yourself to be an icon of the genre? Because I know there are people in the community that do believe that, but how do you feel about that?
So I do a podcast called Casualty Friday with my dear friends Tiffany Shepis and Kane Hodder, and we actually analyzed the word icon, and all three of us were like, "No!"
Yeah.
You never think of that. Certainly, I'm honored if anybody does, but no, I just think, like I said, I'm super thrilled to be in this genre. I'm just happy that I can work in doing what I love. It's from my heart. I couldn't think of anything better to do in life than to act and work in horror movies, my favorite genre of all time. And I just feel really blessed, really thankful.
100%. And as I said, there's a lot. I just in the lead up to this, I just pushed out that we were fortunate enough to talk with you for the podcast and the website, and got a great response, a lot of likes, thumbs ups, and there's definitely a lot of fans of you and also obviously Sleepaway Camp that comes with it. So it was great to have that response. So
thank you.
Where do you actually enjoy watching horror movies yourself though, or is that?
I love horror movies.
Okay.
Love horror movies. I'm like a kid in a candy store when I go to conventions because I get to meet all of the people I just love and admire and respect and have watched through the years. So it's certainly very exciting for me.
That's cool. So, like, is there any horror movies that you would suggest or recommend based on? And what are your thoughts of where horror movies are today?
Oh, I think I love all the different subgenres within the genre. I love home invasion movies. I'm a sucker for the real crazy, like Funny Games with Naomi Watts. Is one of my favorite. I love like twisted psychological. Some torture because it's sort of you exercise a lot of your own stuff or life stuff when you watch that. It takes you on an emotional roller coaster and it's just thrilling to kind of immerse yourself in that world. I love The Strangers, but I also love 80s slasher films. Halloween, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're all my classic favorites. Black Christmas, Phantasm is one of my favorites.
Oh, I love that movie.
so many great films made during that time. And I think we're just getting better and better and people are taking, great, notice. And it's amazing to see the genre explode.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I found that from a very young age, I became immersed in horror. And I was very young, but I grew up through the 80s when this kind of exploded, and we had a lot of the stuff I was kind of seeing on VHS back in the day when we could actually get them out on videotapes and watch these things, and was drawn in by a lot of the video art covers that were there, and I was like, that looks awesome, and things like that. So, you mentioned Friday the 13th, and I wanted to talk about, obviously, Sleepaway Camp came out in 1983 in the wake of Friday the 13th, which ignited the whole slasher phase. And Sleepaway Camp has received a massive cult status after the fact that it came out. But what do you personally think is the secret to its appeal? What do you think makes Sleepaway Camp so great?
Well, first of all, I think Sleepaway Camp is, the epitome of the 80s with the short shorts and the so the style and the language and the interaction, the energy, very New York. We all talk like this. So that it's comedy. To me, it's become a comedy. It's funny. You have to watch it from that angle. It's like there aren't even many murders none of the killing is so insane.
Yeah.
It's very, very much left up to your own imagination. But I feel as though there's a lot of social commentary in Sleepaway Camp that's resonated with audiences through the years that are still very relevant right now. Bullying, so, you know, gender identification, sexual identification, being a teenager and trying to actually understand, like, who, you know, your own physicality, your own sexual, you know, passions, and again, identification, very important, and that will be forever. So you don't just have a killer running through the camp. You actually have, on maybe a second watching, because the first time you're like, you hit over the head with the pen. Then the second time you sort of watch this, you know, through a different lens, like, wow, what led to that? And you know, the pieces of the puzzle are sort of sorted out and worked through in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that too, because I mean, most people would be aware of the ending because of the ending was such that kind of impactful moment, and I don't want to say too much around it for any listeners out there who have yet to see it. But what was your initial reaction to the ending of Sleepaway Camp when you first watched? Because obviously were you aware of that the ending? Were you given that as a part of your direction, or were you just told to play the role of Angela as is?
Well, I knew everything. I knew everything from the audition because they had to speak. I was 12 at the audition. I was 13 when we filmed it, but I was 12. And they had to speak with my mom to ask her permission to kind of get involved in sort of the, you know, just the killings alone. Like, is that okay? Of course, my parents were like, yeah. And they, you know, I came from a family who was so amazing and very open and no judgment and loved everybody. So I was fortunate for that. And they then had me read the script. And when I read the ending, I understood the shock value, like that you were surprised from what happened in the beginning of the movie to the end. And then when we filmed that night, there was definitely something in the air where we felt overcome with you know, it's just jarring to your person. There's something very like shocking, and it was quite original. And I remember seeing it in the theater and feeling that same thing, like, wow.
So am I right that you, and I may have misheard this, but am I right that you went to see this with your class when you went to watch this?
Yes.
Yeah. So
eighth grade.
Yeah. So, and was that the first time you'd seen it, or was that
the very first time I saw it?
Wow.
This was my class, my family, my cousins.
Oh, wow.
And I remember it like it happened yesterday. It's so clear. And I just remember I was in the back of the theater, and I remember looking at the screen and sort of taking a moment to just take it all in. And it was like, wow. And I thought it was quite mesmerizing and captivating.
Yeah. You know? I think it still has that effect today when you watch that kind of moment, especially if you're not aware of the ending as well. And it does lead you down back to what we were saying again about psychological horror, because it does kind of start you kind of then go, how did this come about? What led to these final events, and what had turned Angela in this case, you know? So, and in the documentary, I watched the documentary, which was accompanied one of the Blu-ray releases of Sleepaway Camp. And
Shout Factory,
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so you talk about how impactful Sleepaway Camp was on your career, and you came across quite emotional in that. Do you still find that you have a similar emotional response when you talk through those moments and the journey that Sleepaway Camp led you on in your career?
I am very emotional about Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp is almost as impactful and tremendous in my world and the fabric of my life as my children are. I see it like that. It's given me an entire life, and I will never take that for granted. I mean, I work because of it, thankfully, in the genre that I love, in doing what I love. I have a family because my husband was the biggest Sleepaway Camp fan. So he came and looked for me and found me, and
wow.
we're married because of it and have kids because of it. And I can't explain it. And I think even more than that, because I do conventions.
Yeah.
And I, I could be emotional all the time about it because I'm an emotional person. Meeting the people that I do at conventions who tell me their stories, that where Sleepaway Camp, although the cheesy, 80s film that it is, had an impact and touched their lives in a certain way, is so far beyond something that I could comprehend, because it brought myself and another human being together, is amazing to me.
Yeah.
And my gratitude every day, I'm on my hands and knees, like saying thank you, because I'm so happy for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that. There's obviously, and we've mentioned about the love and support that people have and the devotion that they have to Sleepaway Camp. And you yourself would reprise the role of Angela in part 4 of the franchise. And when I was talking online to some of our followers, a lot of people were asking about would you reprise the role of Angela again? Is there a chance of a reboot coming? If that does happen, how would Angela be placed within that? What are your thoughts around that? Do you think there will be another return of Angela, or if
there's definitely, they're working on something right now. There's something in the works right now. I really don't know exactly what it is. Certainly, I would love to play Angela again, because I don't feel like I'm finished with her, and I would love to. I would love to continue. I would love to see a prequel with Aunt Martha. That's more interesting to me. I would love to play Aunt Martha and tell the story of Aunt Martha's history and the whole family, and what led them, what their feelings and relationships truly were.
Aunt Martha's character is an amazing character. It's a unique performance in its own way. It was funny you said that, because I literally, she was in my mind when we were talking about re-seeing it again, because there's so much complexity to her and so much unknown, and we only ever see her at the very beginning in the lead.
And she's the real monster of the film.
She's the Frankenstein, character.
She is. I mean, Angela only kills people because she was bullied. She's a trans person, but that had nothing to do with her. Like, that's separate from the murders that she. It's a great revenge story. Not that I condone anyone going to kill anyone, but we watch any kind of movie to sort of get, elicit some kind of reaction and whatnot. And I think that it's a great revenge story.
Completely. And so, and I guess that kind of lends itself to my next question, because I was wondering, I watch it now and I still come with it with a lot of nostalgia attached to it. But I'm wondering what you would think a modern going audience would, or how they would respond to Sleepaway Camp if it was released today. And what would you say to anyone who hasn't seen the film before about Sleepaway?
I mean, I think it's certainly. I think it's still. I meet so many people and they're young.
Yeah.
It speaks to modern young demographic today. I just say, go in with an open mind and enjoy it for all its silliness and fun and campy, fodder and whatnot. And, hopefully you don't know the end and you can enjoy it with your own expectation and not have everybody tell you what.
And it's hard. It's one of those ones that's hard because the ending is so impactful to come into this movie without knowing the end. So let's have a quick chat about, obviously, part of the reason you're here and joining us to talk on the podcast is about the new film that's about to come out. It's Camp Twilight. And is there anything that you'd like to say about what that's about before I ask you a few questions?
I mean, Camp Twilight came to me from the amazing Rick Finkelstein, who I love. He owns Entertainment Factory. I've done many movies with them. Brandon Amelat, who directed it, is a dear friend of mine. We all work together. And we had this script, and Brandon and I kind of reworked it. It's twisted. It's also campy.
Yeah.
It's peppered with teenagers and craziness and fun, and it's odd. But I like that kind of filmmaking. I don't, I like to figure things out for myself, and kind of watch teenagers and how they interact. We were working with very young people.
Yeah.
They were really like 16, so it was fun.
Sure.
And it was a great time. We filmed in Florida and we had a blast.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it definitely has that energy about it. All the cast members are involved. You can kind of, I don't know if this translates what I'm trying to express, but there are some movies where you can just see the energy coming out of it and the fun that the actors are having with it, and that definitely resonates in this film. Is it fair to say that it's something of a passion project of yours? Because I mean, obviously you star in it. You talked about co-writing some of the elements of it. You do produce it as well. So is it a bit of a passion project in getting this up to the screens?
I would say it's definitely, I mean, probably every movie I do is a passion project, because if I put my heart and soul and energy and, certainly have to leave my family for a month at a time or months at a time, it's always going to be passion. But yeah, I would say, especially being that it was camp and, it's where my heart will always, be in terms of my happy place. Yeah, it's definitely a film that I'm excited to unleash and have people just enjoy. I mean, look, it's a camp slasher movie. So go in, buckle up, and
exactly.
just go for the ride.
The summer camp element is incredibly strong in this film. And it's something that seems to have cemented or bonded your career in many ways. But this time you're playing more of a guardian figure in the role of the teacher. What was it like to see kind of a bit more of a reverse of that role, obviously, if we compare it once again to Sleepaway Camp? And did you feel compelled to pass on some wisdom to some of the younger actors involved in that kind of role as guardian or mentor?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the character. She's off the rails, to say the least. We wanted to multi-layer her. I mean, there's a lot going on clearly with her from beginning to end. Yeah. She's named after Joe Bob Briggs. His real name is John Bloom, so I named her Jessica Bloom.
Nice.
I certainly got really close with all the young people, and if they needed any kind of help navigating I know, a couple of times when they came out to making out or getting killed, they would come to me like, "What do you think?" And, I would just, anything they needed, I was there. And Brandon loved when I would, speak with the young girls, like, "Hey, can you like sort of infuse your young language?" Because we're all, I say, like when they call me extra, they're like, "She's so extra." We didn't even know what that was.
Nice.
So it was cute, cute moments like that. But, you can always see, I think when people are having fun, it translates onto the screen.
Absolutely.
And we were really close cast and crew. We every night sat in the lobby of the hotel and drank wine and laughed. And that was definitely, a really nice bonding experience with people I just love and adore. I love Rick's wife, Karen Finkelstein. She's amazing. My best friend for 25 years was Wardrobe. She lives in Florida.
Oh, cool.
So it was really coming together of people I love.
Yeah, nice. I mean, and speaking of people that you love, and there's some great cameos in this, like throughout the film. Like, so, like, I mean, like, I'm only going to name 3 of them, but but there's lots. But we've got Linnea Quigley in there, Camille Keaton, and I have to mention Australia's Vernon Wells, obviously being an Australian podcast. To name but a few. How was it like? How did these actors become involved in the project? How did that materialize?
Because they're all, and Dave Sheridan, from Scary Movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all very, very close friends of mine. I was with Linnea the last weekend and the weekend before convention. I was with Camille the weekend before that. Dave Sheridan and I have done 10 films together over the past couple of years. We're together all the time working. Yeah. Vernon Wells is one of my best friends. So you just kind of like say, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to come jump in? And, you pray and hope that they want to say, yeah, sure. Yeah. So I love working with my buddies.
Yeah, it was great. It's always good to kind of see that. And that was part of the nostalgia that came with Death House when it came out, which kind of these people, which I know you were involved in. Speaking of Joe Bob Briggs, I had one of the questions we had from one of our followers was saying, what was your initial reaction to when Joe Bob Briggs asked you to guest spot on The Last Drive-In as the mangled dick expert?
Joe Bob is one of my favorite people on the planet, and when he asked me to do the marathon, I was so thankful because I love him, and it's one of my favorite things is being on the Last Drive-In as his mangled dick expert, and I'm forever grateful to him for giving me the opportunity to sort of be a part of something that I loved as a child, watching Monster Vision, growing up with him, and having him just sort of invite me into his world and on his set, and his, work is incredible.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's so good to see these collaborations come about, like we were mentioning with a few of the other kind of things that we're talking about. Just to kind of round up a couple of things as well, because talking about some of the things, one of the other questions that kind of came up was around your involvement in Victor Crowley and your death scene in that, and how awful that was and how amazing that was, and working with Kane Hodder, and also like you being a guest judge on the Boulet Brothers Dragula. They said
I love the Boulet Brothers.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that kind of commenting and really loving what you're doing as part of the genre. And one big thing, if we can, and you might not be able to kind of mention anything about it, but is Terrifier 2. There's been a lot of talk around this, and I know has it finished filming yet? Is there a possible release date on the horizon? Is there anything you can talk about your character, or is it a bit too hush-hush?
I think they have like 2 more scenes, and it might even be coming out this spring.
Oh, that'd be awesome. There's so much love, obviously, to Art the Clown, because he's also kind of regenerated that kind of fear that like the likes of Jason and Freddy and those kind of people have done, and it's good to see someone of that character kind of on screen again. So there's a lot of people looking forward to that. Is there anything you can say about the character of that, or is it very hush-hush?
I play a teacher, and it was a lot of fun.
Cool. Well, we're really looking forward to it. So is there anything else you'd like to kind of mention besides Camp Twilight coming out? Anything you'd like to kind of discuss that's on the horizon for you?
I have a bunch of films that are coming out. A couple of days ago, Amityville Harvest, a film that is in the Amityville universe. Cool. That just came out. I'm a producer on it. And I did the remake of Stepdaddy, which is coming out with Vincent Ward. I have a film called Scream Test that I absolutely love and adore, that did a little run at the drive-ins, but it will be out.
Cool.
And there's just a lot that I'm currently doing a drive-in haunt in LA with Joe Bob and Darcy next week. So that's going to be great.
Nice.
I don't know if you know, Andy Dick does a show. We love Tiger King.
Yeah.
He's on a show called Tiger Dick that's on Facebook TV. That's hilarious.
It sounds.
And I just want to say, I'll be popping in.
I cannot wait to see that when it comes around. Thank you so much for your time, Felissa. I really appreciate it. Good luck with all the projects that are coming out with Camp Twilight, and we really appreciate you coming on board and chatting with us here at Surgeons of Horror. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.